Hi students, this is Clauses and Phrases 1.5, Level D. Go ahead and fill in the information in the blanks at the top of the screen. And take about 30 seconds to do that. Let's check it out. So, as we should know by now, it's an independent clause that contains a subject, verb, and complete thought. A phrase does not have its own subject and or verb. It's a dependent clause that begins with the subordinating conjunction awubis. And the five relative pronouns are who, whom, whose, that, which. All right, on to the next section. So bracket your independent clauses, underline your dependent and relative clauses, circle non-restrictive phrases. Take about a minute to think through that and do them. Looking at the examples, although is an awubis. So I enjoy Gary's company. We have subject-verb combination. That means we have a clause. And then this could be its own sentence and stand alone. For the second example, Glenn will do well and Aaron may struggle, could be independent clauses. They're both interrupted by, in this case, a phrase, which is a positive phrase modifying Glenn, and a relative clause here, who enjoys outdoor sports, modifying Aaron. Let's see how you did with the examples. Anissa will make the posters is an independent clause. If you notice the comma fanboys here indicates that we have two independent clauses being separated by those comma fanboys. Number 2, unless Richard, my brother's neighbor, plays for us, we will not have enough people to fill a team. And again, when I'm doing this, I always like to find my independent clauses first, because I know there will always be one. There will be an independent clause somewhere to make it a correct sentence. So we're left with unless Richard, comma, my brother's neighbor, comma, plays for us. I see unless, which is an awubis, and this dependent clause appears to be interrupted by a phrase, much as the example up top was. Number 3, John's proposal, which was accepted by the school board, calls for each school building to set aside 20 minutes for a sustained silent reading. What a good idea. So the whole thing is an independent clause, because there's an independent clause, and I see the word which would indicate we have a relative clause here. Lastly, for my Oldsmobile lurched up the long driveway, its engine sputtering and coughing. This one looks like an independent clause here, and this looks like a phrase modifying it. Alright, on to sentence creation. So go ahead and write one here with a phrase closer after a comma. So for this example it says, John glared at the pitcher, comma, his hands gripping the handle of his bat tightly. So you might write a sentence that modifies the independent clause by describing the subject of it. For example, his hands gripping the handle of his bat tightly, that modifies John. For 6, merely stick two independent clauses together with a semicolon that indicates a stop, and these sentences should be related, such as John glared at the pitcher, semicolon, he gripped the handle of his bat tightly. So again, we're practicing stylistic choices here. We'll give you about a minute and a half for that. Let's give it a look. So I obviously can't read and evaluate your sentences on this video, but let's see. If I'm building one, if you struggled, let's see if we can build one or two together. So let's see. I'll come up with a subject. Animals are always nice and neutral here. Let's get an octopus today. The octopus glided through the water, comma, its tentacles shimmering in the moonlight. There we go. So here's the independent clause in green and the phrase describing in purple. Okay, and two independent clauses here. I wonder if I can do the same as the example and write the same sentence, but this time with two independent clauses. So I'll try that. The octopus glided through the water, semicolon, its tentacles shimmered in the moonlight. Alright, so to change it, it looks like all I needed to do was change the ending of the word shimmering to shimmered. So now I have this independent clause and a connecting independent clause. So again, that's a stylistic choice that you make, and makes me wonder which one I like better. There are perhaps things to like both. But as we write, let's also be making these stylistic choices now that we know how to construct sentences well. All right, number 7, which version is best? So look for differences, look for discrepancies, and that's the best way to handle these. Which one is best, and think about why. Give you a minute for that. All right, terrific. So again, the way I approach this is I'll look at each section looking for differences. Let's see. Looking at A, each of the 4 strands, that's the same for all 4. Reading, writing, speaking, and listening, and language. Those all look the same. Okay, now we have a discrepancy here. Begin and begins with an explanation of how teachers might integrate the standards in their instruction. I see another discrepancy here with there and there. I'm not looking at a key today. So I'm figuring this out along with you. Alright, so let's maybe eliminate some things here. Alright, so if we're to say each of the 4 strands, each is a singular indefinite pronoun. So we need to use the singular, and that would be one that ends with S. So it's A or B then that are still in play. And C and D then would not be correct. So let me now look for the discrepancy between A and B. Okay, we have their instruction and their instruction. This one I know is not correct because this one means belonging to them. So that will eliminate A from consideration. So B would be the best answer, because it correctly uses there and also matches the correct verb, begins, with the subject of the sentence, which is a singular indefinite pronoun, each. Circle how well you understood this one. And feel free to review any of these videos or use them on the quiz if we're still operating remotely.